Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode on the challenges and triumph of online teaching during COVID-19 at the Female Educators Roundtable with your host, Debby Enoe from Teacher Success Coach, and another of my guests from around the world. Kianyu, welcome. Can you please introduce yourself? Tell us where you come from and tell us your name and the age group you teach, please.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marcia. I'm from London. I teach secondary school, so that is age 11 to 16. I don't do sixth form. I teach science, but predominantly chemistry and physics at Key Stage 4, which is GCSE. So that's my subject. I think I said I come from London. Right, so that's a short introduction to me. I've been teaching about 14 years. I was previously in IT. I used to teach IT, but science is much more in demand, so I decided to teach only science. So that's something about me.
Okay, thank you. So how do you find science? Because that's a very subject in demand anyway, science subject. And especially women teaching physics. You don't get very many female teaching physics.
It is very demanding. It is demanding, and especially from the point of view that it is a core subject in the UK. All students have to do it up to GCSE, so that is until they leave school. And the challenge with teaching, especially physics, students switch off because they think it involves a lot of maths, which it does. But once you do a few problems and you get to know the formulae, then you're okay. The challenge with teaching it as well is that students often don't give you the chance. They switch off because it's physics. You know, at times you have to go really, really, really basic for them to understand. But my favorite science is chemistry, because I love doing experiments. And it's a very practical subject. However, with COVID, I won't be able to do classroom experiments unless we have enough for a pair of students. So only no more than 2 students can do an experiment, and we haven't got enough equipment for that. So previous to COVID, we would do the groups of either 5 or 6. Typically, they would come to the front of the classroom. I would show them what's what, you know, what the experiment is about, show them how to do it, send them off to get their equipment. They go to their groups, and I walk around and see that they're conducting experiments properly. But that was before COVID. We've been told now, as I said, we can only do it in pairs, or I would have to get a visualizer over my desk that shows what I'm doing. But the visualizer that I have at the moment is quite bad. I don't use it. So I don't know if they're planning to give us new ones, you know, that will show what we're doing, you know, much better, much clearer, and without the delay, you know. So that's going to be a challenge when we return.
Yes, it would be.
And especially for GCSE, because right now they have required practicals. So with each subject at GCSE, there's a number of practicals that they have to do, or I have to give them the chance to do it. And I do a risk assessment, you know, for each class. And if I think it's a class that's not going to listen, or that's going to mess about with the equipment, then what I will do is maybe do it as a demo. So, you know, they come to the front and they see me do it. Or worst case scenario, I show them a YouTube video and I talk them through the video. And I say, look, this is how you set up the practical. This is what you do. These are the results. This is what it means. And then we go through and answer questions about the practical.
Okay.
School, that's what's going to affect me the most, the lack of doing practicals, because I really, really enjoy that.
Okay. Thanks for that. So what were your experience teaching online, especially if you just told us you like practicals? and one of the things you were not able to do online was practical. So how did you, what was the teaching experience like for you teaching physics and chemistry online to those students?
That was very, very difficult because I'd set them the work to do, and we did have a couple of practical lessons, but I'd have to do it on YouTube.
Okay.
And I give them questions to answer, but my engagement was very, very low. And that was disappointing, especially for the year 11s who were to take GCSE, because if they, I mean, they haven't decided yet what they're going to do, and A-level results come out tomorrow, GCSE results come out next Thursday, and they haven't decided exactly what they're going to do. But in the case of an appeal, I could have said, okay, this student is doing all the work that I've set them, they're engaged, this is the results of the work that they've done, which would potentially enable them to get a good grade. But I found that the older the students got, the less they actually engaged. So my year 7s, which was age 11 and 12, they engaged the most. Some of them had difficulty accessing the internet or equipment, you know, like they might have a shared computer in the house. So what our school did was to give them a pack. So every child who was identified as having difficulty accessing the net or accessing equipment was given a paper pack.
Okay.
So for year 7, the engagement was quite high. I'd say around 90%.
Woo!
Yeah, for year 7.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, for year 7. For year 8, I had a top set year 8. And year 8 is age 12 to 13. And the year 8s were fantastic. I can easily say there's only 2 students of the class who didn't engage.
Wow.
And they did every bit of work that I gave to them. And what I had to do was give them a compulsory part and an optional part, invariably optional as well. They're really, really, really keen, really enthusiastic, and we have a really good relationship I have with my year 8s. So engagement with them was no problem. Just 2 students, as I said, and the 2 students who didn't engage, I wasn't surprised because they never ever handed in their homework, for example.
Okay.
So, you know, outside of school, they didn't really engage anyway. But the difficulties start from year 9 upwards. And unfortunately, that's from GCSE upwards, because in my school, we start GCSE in year 9. I had 3 year 9 classes, which meant I had about 80 students, 80 year 9.
Wow.
For my year 9s, out of the 90 students, maybe 30.
Whoa.
Yeah. And probably less than that.
Wow.
I can say easily a handful of students engaged every lesson, and maybe 30 every fortnight.
Wow.
But at least half of them didn't engage at all.
My goodness. So how were you teaching them? Was it paper-based, or you do a Zoom class, or you do a Google Classroom? How were you teaching them?
No, for the year 9s, we didn't have to teach face-to-face at all. And that was up to GCSE. For 6th form, they did do live lessons, Zoom lessons. So what I did, it was a combination of, we used various platforms like Easy Education. We used, oh gosh, it escapes me now, Active Learn, sorry. We used a couple of other platforms where they could read a bit of text, for example, or it would show them a video and then they answer questions online. So they wouldn't have to even get a pen and write.
Okay, okay,
and then that
okay.
immediately, I could see who logged on, I could see for how many minutes they logged on.
Okay.
So it was really easy to tell who was engaging, So that was my year 9s. My year 10s, I had a top set and a bottom set year 10 for chemistry and physics. My top set year 10, the class is about 26.
Okay.
Yeah, out of the 26, there was one student who engaged every lesson. That is a top set. There were probably about 6 who did the work fortnightly. Now, for the fortnight, I see them 4 times a week, which meant that there was 4 pieces of work in a fortnight that they could do. But again, over half of them didn't engage at all.
And those were your top sets?
Yeah. For my bottom set, there was one student who engaged regularly. And that's sort of about 19 in the class. Right? And then for my year 11, I had a bottom set year 11 and a top set year 11. And it's the same. For my bottom set of about 16 in that class, maybe 4.
Wow.
Then for my top set year 11, oh gosh, it's less than 10%. A handful of students in my top set year 11.
Really?
A handful.
So how did you make contact with those that wasn't there?
Well, what we had to do, what my school did, is you had to give, they didn't want all of the teachers contacting the parents, which I understand, because it might stress the parents out if 10 different teachers were contacting them about their child not engaging. So what we did is you had to give behaviour points, depending on how many times a fortnight you had them, and how many pieces of work they were doing. So if I saw the class 4 times a fortnight, I might give them 1 behaviour point if they didn't do any work at all. And then it was down to the form tutor to look at that, and then the form tutor would make contact with the parents. So I'm a year 8 form tutor. So I would have to send a letter that was already done for us. We just had to change the name. So that everybody was getting the same format of the letter. And I would have to email the parents and just say, is there any support that I can give you because your child hasn't logged on or they haven't.
Okay.
And then if it happened again, there was another format. But if I had serious concerns about my form, then I would contact my head of year. And my head of year may call the parents.
Okay.
So at no stage did I actually have to call parents.
Right.
But what I did do, like for the few students who did engage, especially those regularly, whatever class they were in, I would send an email to the parents just to say how well they're doing. The parents really appreciated that, especially those who were bottom set.
Yeah.
Some of them they struggle in science. But they tried. Even though some of the questions might just have a big question mark. But they tried.
They were willing.
Yeah.
Willing to have a go.
Yeah. So I have found the whole process of teaching on, like I said, we didn't have to teach live lessons, but what I did do with year 10 is I did Loom. So I had a PowerPoint and I would talk them through the PowerPoint. So it may have questions, and then I would say pause it for say 5 minutes. Onto the questions, then go to the next slide where it would have the answer. So that's the only kind of live bit that I did. So I did a few Loom lessons. And with Loom, you can tell who has watched it.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
which means the student had no contact with you, i.e. seeing you face to face.
No.
How was that for you, and how was that, you think, for them? Did you ask them about it, whether or not, that the fact that they didn't see you, how did they feel about it?
I didn't ask them for fear of them requesting it. Because if I had to do it, it meant that every teacher would have to do it, or it would be suggested that every teacher do it.
Okay.
But what I did do is, with my form, I would email them, and I would email them the parents. And that would be, so I didn't only email the parents if I was concerned. I also emailed them to say how well they've done.
Okay.
And with my form, not. I think once a week I would put a message on there for them. How you doing? Tell me if you need any support. If you're not being able to engage, let me know so that I can tell your teachers for you. I used to have jokes like who done it, quizzes for them, have chocolate bars, so that, okay, the prize this week is these chocolate bars, to help them just to engage.
What's your chocolate bars?
But with my form, actually, I did ask my form how they felt about it. And some of them really struggled.
Really? On what sense? When you said I really struggled, what do you mean?
They struggled not seeing the whole episode. They struggled. So they struggled not seeing their friends. They struggled not coming into school. They struggled because, at the height of it, every day they would tell us how many hundreds of people have died.
Oh, yes.
Some of them did lose relatives. So a lot of them struggled. I know I have some who have mental health issues. So those ones, I didn't even contact the parents to say, they're not engaged, because I thought this is a really difficult period for them.
Exactly, isn't it? There's no, that's not a priority, is it?
Yeah. To me, schoolwork wasn't a priority. Definitely not for my form. For the students that I taught, then schoolwork was a priority. For my form, as a form tutor, schoolwork wasn't a priority. It was their well-being. So but actually I considered that with even the students that I taught, because even when we go on Show My Homework, that's where we set on our work.
Okay.
My head of the department had identified me as one of those who, just the tone of the work that I set was really good.
Okay, well done.
Because I thought that and I didn't know they were doing this, but I thought that this situation is really unprecedented. I really need to watch how I even, good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well today. This is what we're going to do today. You're doing this work because you understand. Whereas some teachers would just say the task for today is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So,
yeah.
My head of the department did send me an email about that.
That's brilliant, though, because leadership don't normally appreciate educators. So it's quite nice. It is quite nice you getting a email of appreciation.
Yeah.
Because normally instead, all they say is, you need to do this and so time.
Yeah.
And instead of educators saying, sorry, I cannot do it tomorrow, they force and do it, and by forcing and do it, it leads to stress. And it can become a vicious circle. So it's really nice that you were actually appreciated by your department. That's very nice.
Yeah,
Very unusual.
I'm usually the one, not appreciated, but
That's good. Things are changing then due to COVID. Wow.
Yeah. So for me, the main thing, during this period was the non-engagement, because we haven't yet been told when we return if we're going to reteach everything, which to me we have to. Even if it's one student didn't engage, it means we have to do everything again. We haven't been told if anything's going to be taken into account, if they're going to slim down what we need to teach. We haven't been told.
Okay.
So the non-engagement, and some students who are really keen in the lessons, they didn't engage at all, which really surprised me.
Okay. Yeah, but what do you think that is likely to be?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know, because I've tried to think, there's one student in particular, I'm still surprised at her lack of engagement, because in the classroom, we have a really good relationship. She is very hardworking. It could be something to do with home.
Yes, that's another factor we tend to forget, isn't it? Because they're now full-time at home, whereas in school, when the physical building was open, there was not as full-time as they are there now. So
yeah,
that's a factor. It could be being at home. Yeah.
They don't necessarily tell us what's going on at home. They may send an email and say, not to give a student behavior points, because something is going on, but we don't necessarily know what it is.
Okay. That's interesting, because normally you'll also have the children telling you what some of the issues are anyway.
Yeah, but I found even with my form, I kept on emailing them. If you've got any problems, let me know. They never did. By and large, they never did. One of them said her computer wasn't working. But that's as much as I got, and my form is 30. And I've had them for 2 full years now. So it's not like they don't know me.
Exactly.
But they never told me. They never told me. But with the ones I was concerned about, I did email the parents.
Did you get a response?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
They told me, what's what.
Okay.
Some of them, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get a response, because they are the first to email when there's a problem.
Exactly, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but when they're sort of quote unquote the problem, or anything. So this showed me what some of the families are like as well, this COVID. But yeah, that's the main thing, the lack of engagement, that was issues. And of course, the school had to make it up as we went along.
Yes, because nobody had the answer. We've never done online before.
Yeah.
So we're all learning together, and it's a situation where nobody had no tools to say, okay, here you are. Their knowledge and tools came from the internet, as ours did. So that's the thing about it.
Yeah. We had to make it up. But my school was quite good in terms of self-care. They offered it for the teachers. So they had what they called a Wellbeing Wednesday. Where it was typically as, I think it was Zoom. I never participated. But they offered it to the teachers, and I think the focus was something different each week. Yeah. So, to my school's credit, they are forward, they care about their staff. I know our head teacher cares about his staff.
Okay, that's interesting though, because he actually is forward-thinking principal, because he's realizing that in order for my school to run well, I need to take care of my staff.
Yeah, he's
So he's
very,
actually seen that. So he's actually
yeah,
seen the value of that.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
he has employed that throughout his whole setup.
yeah.
He realized that if my teachers are not happy and not they haven't taken care of themselves, there is no way I'll be getting the result that I need. Well done
Mm.
on your hair, on your principle. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's
It's
very,
really
very
good.
forward thinking. I
Yeah.
mean, even things like last year I requested to reduce my hours and take one afternoon off a week, and he
Hmm.
said yes. This year, come September, I'll be taking 2 afternoons off every week, and he said
Okay.
yes. He tries to accommodate us with our requests for part-time working.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's very,
That's
very good
very
like that.
good.
Yeah.
That's very
I mean,
good.
he's new. He took over the school. I think this is his first year. It's either his first or
Okay.
second year.
Okay, so he's a new innovative principal.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a lot of respect for him.
that's brilliant, because
Mm,
he's actually want his educators to come with him. He's
mm,
not saying, well, this is what you do and this is what I do. He's saying, no, we need to work as a team, and I value you through your self-help. So I'm going
mm,
to make sure that I give you help in your, to proceed in terms of self-help, self-care, etc. So that's
mm.
fantastic, because a lot of educators and principals and leaders don't think about that. All they think is
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to do X, and if you cannot do it, why not? That's fun.
yeah,
That's brilliant. That's really is good.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't always filter down to our head of department, you know.
Exactly, isn't it? Because that's going against what he or she philosophy have been, because they've been in the building for too long. That's the whole thing about, they've been there for so long that they're not innovative or creative thinking. They haven't looked at in order to increase productivity, my workforce have to be well and healthy. They haven't got that.
Mm, mm, mm,
He or she's under the misconception of, okay, well, you just need to walk, 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 walk. Walk, walk, walk doesn't work. It
yeah,
does
yeah,
not
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
which means that somebody like me would be going over my head of your head all the time. I'm going to the principal, because obviously we don't connect here. We don't connect at this level, because you feel I should walk, walk, walk. You don't care about my self-care. So I'll have to escalate it up in order for people.
Actually, with my part-time working request, that's exactly what I did. I didn't go to the head
Exactly.
of department. I went straight to the head.
Exactly. There's no point, because you already see what this head of department is all about. Because
Mm,
old school, old mentality that you have to work, 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 and they think that the more you work, the more productivity they get. They don't realize that it's less you get. Whereas if your staff is healthy, you're getting much more than the staff, much more from
mm,
the staff. So that's the issue there as well. Oh yeah, in terms of community, you already had your community from the physical classroom, didn't you? Your
yeah,
staff, your student community.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And the fact that you didn't have many of them, there was no there was no community.
No, no, no. I found, that, yeah,
So in
there wasn't.
terms sorry, so in terms of relationship with you and the parents, would you say that your relationship with you and the parents have increased in comparison to when you're in the physical classroom, or it remained the same? What was the relationship like?
I found that as I said, what I did is I'd email the parents of my form who were doing really well.
Okay, okay,
And I got some really nice responses from the parents, you
okay.
know, even telling me how my daughter's really fond of you, but she'd be horrified if I told you this.
All
You know,
right.
when the child is in the classroom like this every morning, and I never get anything from them. So, that things like that were really nice,
Yes,
a
yes, yes.
lot of compliments on how much we tried to engage with students and what the school did as a whole.
Okay, okay.
So I found that with some parents, the communication increased
Okay.
because they were just glad that we were trying to keep their children busy.
Right, right.
Some parents, unfortunately, have yet to respond to me, even though I've sent them like 6 emails. You know, and as I said, it's a standard format, so it's not me having a go. It's a standard format. And I was a bit disappointed because they didn't respond to my emails when I'm concerned that their child isn't doing any work. But at the same time, they're the first ones to email me if they think the teacher's picking on their child.
Yes, isn't it funny? It is so true. Yeah.
I'm really disappointed to see that.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed because, you know, it works both ways.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here for both. You know, I'm here if you think your child's being picked on, but I'm here. I think it's my duty to let you know if I don't think your child is engaging.
Exactly. Yes,
You know,
yes.
yeah, and I expect a response. Both, you know, and it wasn't a matter that they didn't get my email. I know that.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm quite disappointed with some. And then there's other parents who I didn't hear from at all as well. But I'm not surprised.
Because it's the same thing you will get in the physical classroom, isn't it? So therefore, when you go onto the online platform, you know, there's no surprises. It's the same, you know, it's the same thing, isn't it? Yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, as I said, we got some really nice emails from the parents.
Oh, brilliant.
I think a lot of parents were just grateful that we tried to keep their children busy doing work. You know, and for every lesson that I had, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but if I had a student, say, a class, say Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, I would make sure that work is there Monday, Tuesday, and Friday for them. And try and vary it, you know, so maybe YouTube, quizzes, written work.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to vary it a lot.
Okay, that's something I was going to ask you in terms of, you know, how did you do your lessons? Did you have to change your lesson, the way you did it in the physical classroom to the way you do it online? How did you have to change it?
Yeah, there were maybe only a handful of occasions where I actually scanned the page of the book and told them to answer the questions. Because I know some students love working like that, you know. But most of the time, I would vary it. So I might give them a YouTube video and then ask them questions about the video. I might give them an online quiz where they self-mark it. As I said, we had Easy Education. We had Brain Pop as well. Brain Pop was very good. Brain Pop, they an American company, but what they did is during COVID, they gave their software for free. So Brain Pop, it's maybe 2 or 3 minute videos. So it may be on the menstrual cycle, for example. And they then you have a quiz of 10 questions. You can then go and find out the meaning of the keywords, and they give you further research that you can go and do. You know, and then there was other things like there was a school, the name escapes me now, but there was a school who we used their resources a lot. So they had, they were very, very good. They had like 20-minute video of a teacher explaining a topic for you, and pause it to answer questions and then go through the answers. So there were, I tried to vary. There were a lot of different things that I did. And of course, depending on the year group.
Okay. And that also involved you not taking things from the physical classroom to come across, is changing what you had in order to use it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So how was it in terms of assessment? How did you assess students' learning? Or how did you assess them per se?
A lot of the work was no, I'd say maybe a third of the work, depending on the class, was written. Like my tops at year 8, for example, I know they like written work.
Okay.
So I gave them a lot of written work, and then they would take a picture of it and upload it for me so that I could actually read it.
So you could actually see that they've done it as well.
Yeah. And I could assess it. So then I would tell them, you know, where they went wrong and what improvements they need to make. But things like easy education and active teach, it marks it for you.
Okay, so you didn't have to do any marking?
For those ones, yeah. For the online software, we didn't have to do any marking.
Okay.
The work that I marked was primarily the work that I set without using the online software.
Okay. And how did you find that?
That it varied depending on the subject. You know, there was a lesson that I did on physics, reflection of light, where they had to draw the reflected line from a mirror.
Okay.
I found something like that very difficult to assess because in terms of telling them, normally I would go to the student and say, look, this is how you have to draw your lines.
Yes.
And even if they did it wrong and sent me a scanned picture of it, I found it difficult to feed back to them because it's easy to say, look, this angle needs to equal that angle. You know, here's your normal. You know, I could explain the answer in a few seconds. Whereas trying to explain that online was very difficult, and so some of the time, I said, you know, when we get back to class, I'll explain this because some of the students are stressed out enough. Yeah.
Not understanding it. It's like, can you imagine not understanding it and you're feeling stressed? You know, there come a time you have to give up because there's no point.
Yeah.
Not gonna go, there's no point. Yeah.
So that, you know, some things were easier to assess than others.
Okay.
The easiest thing to assess actually, last year I had to teach life studies, which is a bit like PSHRE. It's a bit like citizenship type.
Yeah.
That was the easiest one to assess.
Okay.
Because it's really them giving their opinion.
Okay, yes, on lifetime. Yes. That's a different thing.
Yeah. But in terms of engagement, my life studies class, because I don't take it seriously in school, I've got 3 classes of life studies, so it's about 80 students.
Wow.
Easily about 15 of the 80 students did their life studies work because I don't take it seriously in school.
My goodness. Wow.
So engagement of that was really low.
Do you think why do you think the engagement might have been so low?
Because they don't take it seriously in school. You know, because it's a subject that's not assessed.
Okay.
There's no exam. You can't do life studies as a GCSE.
Okay.
So even at the end of the year, they're not assessed. There's no exam.
Exactly. So there's no incentive.
No. So they come in and they just have a laugh.
Of course.
I find my behaviour issues, the highest behaviour issues I have is with the life studies class.
Really?
Because they think they're just coming to sit down for an hour and have a chat. They don't want to sit where you put them. They don't want to do the work. I had to do a lesson on STDs once. And I had a girl who refused to do any writing. And she simply said that in years to come, she may become famous and she doesn't want her name associated with this lesson on STIs. Yeah, so you know, they didn't take it seriously.
Wow. Talking a range of attitude you have.
Oh God, you know, and you just have to decide which battle you're going to fight because some of the battles it's not worth fighting. Exactly.
So you definitely have to be assessing, you know, is this battle I'm going to fight or should I just leave it?
Yeah, and then
I think it's better to do it.
In that situation, I just gave her a behaviour point for not doing the work in her lesson and left it.
Yeah, there's nothing else you could do though. That's the thing about it. That's the frustration when you're actually teaching a certain age group. There's nothing you could do. They just, some of them just sit there as lemons. So there's no, you know, some of them just sit there and become sponges, and you just keep on feeding the sponge.
Yeah.
Which is so
Yeah.
very, very sad.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the easiest to assess. The easiest to assess, but the lowest engagement.
The other thing is the 11. You say you teach the year 11, right?
Yeah.
So which means that next year is the A level starts then.
Yeah. For year 11.
So have you had any of them that you had to assess that did the GCSE for this year?
Yes. For my top set, I did assess some of them. But as I said, the engagement was really low at year 11. So the assessment that I did, because I set them primarily exam questions, because we had finished teaching the content, and we were getting to the stage where we would just be revising.
Okay.
So I did a lot of revision work with them. That was the main work, and some exam. I think I did some exam technique with them as well.
Okay, but when was the revision technique for them? When is the exam? When they were taking the exam?
No, those are the exams that were cancelled.
Okay,
so
right.
I did the exam technique only in case they decide to do an appeal and do their exam. I think they can do the exam in November if they want to.
Yes, the question I was going to ask you is, so which means that you needed to give your student grades then?
Yeah.
So how did that's what I was coming to. That's the reason I was asking this question.
Okay.
How did you allocate them grade on what basis? Because you don't have assessment. Did you have assessment with them throughout the year? What was the situation?
Yeah, but for the year 11s, because the year 11s, most of them, no, one year 11 I had only in year 11. Another year 11 I had them since year 10.
Okay.
So I had them for 2 years. So my bottom set I had for 2 years. And I found giving them predicted grades quite easy, because we did it based on their mock and their work in lesson.
Okay, so are we saying that these grades that the predicted grades that you've given them, did that carry on to it being the final grade for them this year? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the government as well, though, because Ofqual, they decided to lower the grades in Scotland, but Nicola Sturgeon has overturned that and has decided that they're going to get their predicted grades.
Exactly, because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of teachers did overinflate the grades, because you're thinking the best outcome for the student, because you're thinking if the student worked and they did the say the revision past questions, this is the grade that they would have got. And you have to think, well, I think positively. I think, this is the best grade that they're going to get. And, not all the time it works out like that, because students sometimes don't put in the work that's required.
Exactly. So therefore, the grades you've given the students, how confident you feel that grades you give them was a reflection of what they've done throughout your...
Because of my background, because I'm an examiner, I'm quite confident in the grades I predicted. In my last school, for example, when we got our exam results back and compared it with the predicted grades, mine always came like 90-odd%.
Okay.
So I was very good at predicting the grades.
Right.
But, for my year 11s, for my top set, we had 3 teachers, and for my bottom set, we had 2 teachers. So I had to do it with alongside the teacher. So we both have to agree what we think the student would get. And, you know, sometimes we had different views, you know, so we just had to meet in the middle.
Right, yeah. And did you have to allocate the A-level grades as well?
Yeah, I don't do A-levels, but the A-level teacher had to do that as well.
Okay. So where do you think the problem lied? In the fact that the educators have given the grades? This is, you know, I'll tell you my stand on this. The educators know the children. They've given the grade which they feel was appropriate for the needs of the children. Bearing in mind, we've had them for sometime a whole year, sometime 2 years. And the sad thing, you then have, you know, the examination board deciding to reduce the grade. What do you think? What's your views on that?
Okay, first of all, it's the predicted grades doesn't favor certain groups. Mm-hmm. It doesn't favor students who come from a poor background or Black students.
Yes.
Right. So that was my problem with it anyway. You know, statistics show that the predicted grades for Black students, the teachers always under predict the grades for Black students and for poorer students, you know. And then if Ofqual come and decide to then lower it again, you know, those groups are definitely at a disadvantage, you know. And I think what they did is for schools in a poor area, they reduced, I think, 60% of the grades. For schools in a richer area, they only reduced 30% of the grades. So they didn't even do it consistently across the board, and that's the difficulty that I have. I don't think they did it consistently. So, you know, predicting the grades, it's difficult. I should say it can be difficult because we had a student, for example, who suffered panic attacks. And every time she sat an exam, she would come in floods of tears, but we knew she was very, very, actually, it was an advantage for her, actually. She would be in floods of tears and she couldn't actually finish her mock. I don't think she completed one mock. But in the class, when I gave her questions, you could see she was very able. So we gave her the grade that we believed she could get in the absence of her mocks because she had panic attacks. So having a predicted grade for her was good because it could be that she did her exam and she would have got panic attack again. So for some students, but very, very few students, it's an advantage of predicted grades. But where it comes on to, as I said, certain groups, they're at a disadvantage. But what was your question again?
No, that's what I was looking at, because you see, that has always been my problem with predicted grade, because we also know that there's some educators who can be very biased in terms of giving the grades to the students who they feel, you know, well, you're not going to get it in the end anyway. And that's nonsense, because my you know, I've been teaching for over 25 years, and in my experience, I also know that a student may do badly on that mock, but in the exam, the students nail it.
Yeah.
You see, so I've always had issues in terms of the predictive grades. Because in terms of how some educators would look at it, my thing is, I always feel that you need to give students the benefit of the doubt, because you don't know what happened when they actually get to the exam on the day. Especially if you know it's an able student. And exactly what you say in terms of the inconsistency of Ofquem actually reducing the way they actually grade, that's my big problem.
Yeah. They didn't do it consistent. They weren't consistent.
Exactly. And that would always be the case in terms of predicted grades.
And the thing is, you know, even schools in a poor area can do very well. You know, when I took a sabbatical one year and I went to a school in East London that for Ofsted, they got outstanding because their results were so good one year. And it was really interesting for me to go into that school and see what they did in order to get such good results. So they were from a very poor area, but they did, I think that in terms of the borough, they were number 3 in the whole borough. So they did very, very well, you know. So it could be that this year, you know, they would have been one of those schools who would have done very well. And then for Ofqual to come and say, because they're in a poor area, cut the grades, it's so unfair.
It is, because what are you using as your measuring stick? Because they're in a poor area, that doesn't say anything at all. You know, it could be a situation they're in a poor area, but the students are so hell bent on getting a good grade because of the area they're in, and because they want to get out of the area and get out of their socioeconomic background. So I have such, when it comes to the education system in the UK, I have such issues with the education system. It is not fit for purpose, and I constantly feel that, as usual, it disadvantages the ethnic minority and the lower class. And it continues to do so. And now, whereby the educators know the student best than anyone else, the cheek of feeling that they could reduce the grade is beyond explanation. It's just really, I find it so frustrating.
Very, very unfair. Excuse me for a second. I'm just going to turn my fan on.
You know, the other thing that gets me with the whole education thing is, how do we know that these students would not have done exceptionally well during the exams?
Yeah, it's true. It's true, because sometimes students do put it out the bag. And, you know, especially at GCSE, because it takes a lot less work. To if you put your mind to it a few weeks before the exam, you can really turn your grade around.
We've seen it, because we've been there. We've seen it, that, you know, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this student really messed up in this mock. Silent, you're thinking, let's see what happened in the exam. In the exam, you're thinking, oh my goodness, you really nail it. We know these things happen.
Yeah.
You know, and
we're pleasantly surprised.
Exactly.
When we see the results.
You're thinking, oh gosh, why did you do that in the mock instead of giving me half palpitation all this time? You know, that's the thing about it. And then we have a situation where, you know, you see, what annoys me about this whole situation this year was, on one hand, it demonstrates that educators know their student well, because the fact that we give them the assessment grade based on the basis of we assessing them through all the academic 2 or 3 years, so we know in terms of what they're able to do, if it is done right. But we also know that some educators, although they see how well some ethnic minority students are doing and poor students are doing, they're still not happy to give the assessment grade. I've had that so many times.
They give them the grade they think they deserve rather than the grade that they should get.
Exactly. And that has been an issue with me. I'm constantly arguing. I've had so many arguments with educators, especially if you're in a team that you have to discuss the results, where, you know, that's what you think, but let's base it on what they've done. You see, and that's what gets me. The assessment, especially with ethnic minority and, you know, poor class, as you've identified, the assessment is never done on what they have done. It is done on what the educator feel they ought to be doing. That's what upsets me.
Yeah. Because their own prejudices come into it.
Exactly, isn't it? You see, that's my issue with assessment. As much as I like assessment, because I feel that when it is done well, it is an accurate assessment, an accurate ability, accurate summary of the ability of the students. We also know that it is dug in controversy. It is also dug in prejudice. You know, and that's what gets me, is the prejudice with some educators who are not using their academic skills to assess as they ought to assess. That's my problem. You know, and now we had the situation where, you know, the results have been reduced because of what?
People's prejudice.
Exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's going to cause a lot of issue because, I would encourage students to appeal because I feel that it is necessary to appeal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
This education system, we could be here for the next 20 years.
yeah.
I we still cannot write it.
Yeah, yeah,
There are a number of 3 tips because your online teaching was very different from the online teaching of face to face. Your online teaching was, when I say face to face,
yeah,
I mean in terms of a Zoom or Google
yeah, yeah,
Classroom.
yeah, yeah,
Your online teaching was based on students doing their work and sending in emailing the complete assessment. That's the way my son was actually taught.
okay.
And it doesn't work for all children because some children like to see their teachers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They like the connection, although the physical is not there, but they're actually seeing it. So therefore, there is a person there they're able to connect with.
yeah, yeah,
I must say, as an educator, I'm very much like that.
yeah. Mm.
Because when I'm actually teaching and I'm not able to see the individual camera, that the camera is off, I just feel as if I am teaching in an air in
Yeah,
space.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's an issue. So what are your thoughts in terms of the way you would teach, the way you taught? In terms of, do you think that it would have been different in terms of engagement and results, or do you think it's going to be exactly the same? What are your thoughts on all of this?
Um, I think ideally, it would have been best to do Zoom lessons
Mhm,
because they would have been able to ask questions.
mhm,
I've been able to have an interaction with them, proper interaction.
mhm,
Because I get on really well with most of my students as well,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I think that face to face interaction would have been ideal. However, the reason why we didn't push it is because if you've got a shared device in the household,
mhm,
um, and especially if the children are going to the same school, then
mhm.
at what time would you have the Zoom lesson, for example?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that to me would have been an issue. Um,
Mhm,
the logistics around it. If they haven't got internet, I had students who had to use their parents' phone, for example, to do the
mhm,
work. You know,
mhm,
um, and we had students who, I mean, I think the government did give laptops, but they came very, very late.
mhm.
And I think our school gave laptops out to students and even supplied them with internet. But we had a
Okay.
problem, yeah, we had a problem where I had one student in particular in my year 7 who, even though she got the laptop and she got internet, I still didn't get any work from her. So even though we provided her with the tools, we still
Mhm,
wasn't getting any work. So yeah, ideally face to face, but I don't think for a household, if and that it would work for a house where every child has got their own device,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
you know. But for your average household,
mhm,
I honestly don't think it would have worked.
mhm.
Or maybe, we could have said just do it for year 10s then,
Yeah, yeah,
because they're coming back as year 11 in September.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I know that I would have got more engagement, or definitely from the year 9, from the
Mhm.
year 10. I can't honestly say that it would make a difference. And we were told as well that if only one student logged in for a Zoom lesson, we had to end the call because we couldn't do one-to-one because of
Right.
safeguarding issues.
Oh yes, 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 yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes, yes,
so
yes.
I had a lot of teachers who were doing, I think, with the A levels, and only two students were dialing for the Zoom call,
Wow.
and it's for A levels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So which mean, regardless whether or not it's A levels or GCSEs or none of those at all, it depends on the student, which would
Yeah,
determine their
yeah,
engagement level.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So what tips would you give to anybody, or what 3 tips you'll give to anybody using the online platform, or good practice which you are going to take from the online platform onto the classroom?
Well, in terms of tips, I'd say if you're setting online work to vary the work, try and have interactive software. In terms of taking things from online to the classroom, I'm not sure, because I just want to draw a line under all of this. And then when we go back to school, we forget all of the online actually. Because I found this period very, I wouldn't say as strong as stressful, but I haven't enjoyed this period at all, and I just want to forget it.
But why haven't you enjoyed it? Because you've learned some new skills. Wouldn't you say that you've learned new skills, than you never had before?
But I'm very, I like face-to-face. I like having a chat. I like to go into work and have a chat with the staff. I love to have the banter with the students. I found this period very, I haven't liked it. I haven't, but there's a whole thing around, and the whole COVID and the number of deaths and the deaths that are still happening. I think as a whole package, for me, I have not liked it.
Yeah.
I just want it to be over. I just, but I suppose what I would take from the online to the classroom is maybe, I don't know, I think I would ask the students themselves what would engage them. Because, who knows, we may have to lock down in different areas once the schools reopen.
Exactly.
I can't imagine that this is it.
Exactly. That's my next question to you. What is your opinion on schools reopening? Because we are going back in September, on the 7th of September. What's your opinion on school opening in September? And also the barrage of insult educators have been getting, like educators are coward, educators are lazy.
Oh, you know what? It annoys me so much because, okay, to answer your second question first.
Yes.
Our school had to close because of the number of people, the number of staff in the school who were at high risk and severely high risk. Right? So the head teacher, I think it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were all thinking, when is he going to close the school? And I think when he got to Tuesday, he said, if 5 more staff go off, that's it, he has to close the school. By the time he got to, and I had to go off because I'm high risk. By the time we got to Thursday, he said, that's it, he had to close the school before the government told him to close the school. Because there's a number of teachers who diabetic, a number of different issues.
Yeah.
And they had to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, you can't run a school on supply. So he may have been able to call in supply at some point. I think they have a certain percentage that they can't have as supply in the school.
Yeah.
So we had to look after ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a very new disease. I think Boris Johnson took too long for lockdown, personally, and I think that the public was so easy to criticise and say we're cowards. At the end of the day, we're looking after ourselves and our own health as well. I've looked at my timetable, and in a fortnight, I think there are 4 days where I will see 180 students come into my classroom.
Yeah.
right? Now, those 180 students have all got their own bubbles.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? They're going to come into my classroom.
Yes.
Right? Because in some schools, it's a teacher who's going to move, but in my school, the students are going to move.
Okay, okay.
So I could have 180 students in my classroom, and don't get me wrong, I think the schools need to open for the staff's mental well-being, and in particular the students' mental well-being.
Yeah.
But to say that we're cowards, it really annoys me, because they want you to wear a mask if you go to the supermarket, right? But we're not allowed to wear a mask in school, for example.
Exactly.
You know, I'm responsible for getting the students to sanitize their hands, for example. You know, but schools are doing everything they can, but of course, we're putting ourselves at risk going back.
Exactly.
You know, and children, they say now that the children are unlikely to get it or unlikely to spread it. I don't know which one. But remember, that was before lockdown. So I don't know where they get this data from.
Exactly.
Where do they get this data from?
Yep.
You know, once we go back in September and then the weather changes, so all of the coughs and the colds and the sneezes, and, you know, students are not good at covering their mouth even when they cough.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, I hope it doesn't happen. But I reckon we're going to have lockdown again. And, you know, from the online lessons, one thing I would ask my students as soon as we go back is what would have helped them to engage, so that I know that right from the very beginning. So that if we should lock down again, I know what will engage them. You know, but the schools need to reopen.
Yeah, school need to be reopened. I agree with you exactly, but it has to be done safely, and they need to have a plan A and a plan B. In the same way as educators, we have lesson plans, and if that lesson plan doesn't work, we have another plan in our head that we're going to run with. But there appears to be no plan in place, or if they have just one plan, they don't have another plan. And as I say, as educators, we may not have two physical plans, but we got a plan in our head. If this lesson plan, we're now working with the student. If it doesn't work, we think, okay, this doesn't work. We know what we're going to do to go to plan B.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They have got no such plan in place, because what they're saying to me, I'm not too sure if your school have said that to you, but my school have said to me that we are going full on. Full on means we go in full class.
Yeah, so we.
And I'm saying, hold on. How could we go full class and they still have, today I noticed it was 1,039 cases of COVID. So when you look at all of that, you're thinking, hold on, there seems to be no dramatic drop, but yet still we are going to go in full on with students who, as we know, they're not very good at covering their mouths. They're not very good at, you know, physically distancing from each other. They come in, they haven't seen their friend for a while. I could guarantee it doesn't matter exactly what age, they're going to just be going straight over and hugging them. Could you imagine the primary school children, the 4 to 6 or what year old, and you're supposed to keep them physically distanced? In terms of their nose are always running anyway. So when I used to teach that group, I always have a box of tissue because their nose are always running. Some of them don't even know how to wipe their noses.
Yeah.
So
even when they were doing catch it, bin it, kill it, right? A lot of the students were not catching it.
Exactly. They weren't even bidding it either.
No.
So when you look at a situation like that, it is quite puzzling as to, we're supposed to be going full on, and some of these things have not even been considered. That's my issue of going back in September full on, because it is necessary to go back because of the psychological and emotional issues that we are going to be experiencing when the students go back. However, that has to be done, the reopening has to be done safely, because you cannot say going back, and this is what happened, because there have been a number of schools in the US who they've gone full on, and they've realized that how many, is it 9 or how many hundred of children became infected, so they had to close the school and go online.
Yeah, that happened in Israel as well.
You see,
In Israel, they had to close the schools. They
and
reopened
schools,
them.
exactly. Schools in the US is the same thing. And what I don't understand is, in the US, they're going a hybrid setup. They're saying, okay, we are going to go online and half in the classroom. The UK, they're not even saying that to us. But for me, I do believe there'll be a second wave of lockdown. We just have to make sure when we go back into the school, one of the things you say, which is a very good tip, say to the student, okay, what in terms of engagement, what did we miss? How could we make it better for you? So we know when we go back out there on the online system, we're really now equipped. Because personally, I don't feel that we're equipped to go into the classroom. You know, and when we go to the classroom, there are a lot of backpacks we have to unpack, i.e. the student come with a backpack of challenges, i.e. the mental health and the psychological aspect. And nobody's talking about how to address trauma, because the students have gone through trauma. Some of them are going through bereavement, but nobody's saying this is how you guys need to address it. So it's quite sad that these are the factors that are not being spoken about, because we know that a lot of children, when they come back to the classroom, there'll be a lot of behavior issue. But the behavior is not behavior per se. It is a result of the trauma. It's a result of the emotional. It's a result of the psychological factors. Which is not being addressed. So it's quite, it is quite sad that we're being told to go back ill-equipped. And then in mind, some of the educators themselves are also going through trauma, going through loss, going through psychological and emotional issue.
I've heard of some teachers who said they're terrified of going back. They're actually terrified.
Nobody's addressing that.
But you know, one thing our school has done is if we feel we're too anxious, then we can get us. That's a reason to not go back. Or once we go back, if we think we're too anxious, you know, once we go back, then we can go off if we want to.
That's fantastic. So you have that.
I don't know if it's classed as sick leave or I don't know under what category they will put it. You know, probably sick leave. But our head teacher's already said that. You know, so we just have to go back and see what it's like.
Yeah, and see the format is going to take. You see, and due to all of this, people are saying that educators are lazy and coward, but I need to remind people out there that as educators, our job are very, very different from everyone else's, i.e., you know, in terms of the supermarket, you do have Sainsbury's, which is not too far from me. They have their staff all protected, mask, the plastic shield, the shield against the, against protecting them from the public. In the classroom, we don't have any of those things.
We don't. And, I think they said that the students don't come within 2 meters or 1 meter of my desk, right? But if they do come, what am I supposed to do?
Exactly.
Because some of them would do it for a joke.
Yeah, just to tease us. Yeah.
Because they think it's funny.
Yeah, exactly. And we're told that we're not allowed to wear masks, although I'm totally against masks anyway. But so when you hear all of that, and then people trying to make the public trying to make the comparison of educators and other industry, that's unfair. It doesn't make sense. It's uncomparable because in the supermarket the staff are all protected. In schools we're not. In schools, in the supermarket, you don't give a hug to your customer. In schools, we do. Supermarket, you don't wipe, your customer nose. In school, we have to sometimes. So all these things people are not looking at, and instead of looking at the whole picture, their whole, knee-jerk reaction is educators are lazy. But let me inform you guys.
They think we just stand at the front of the classroom and deliver a lesson.
Yeah.
They don't know that our job is much, much more than that.
Yeah.
It's much more, So we just have to see what happens.
Yep. Yes. We just have to, see what happens. Thank you very much. Have you got anything else you want to say to us before we actually summarize and close?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
I just want it to get back to normal.
Well, Marcia, it would never be back to normal, my dear.
I know.
It would never be back to normal. As educators, we need to embrace the new normal and enjoy the new normal. And whatever we learn from the online platform, we need to make the most of it. And if we are going back onto the online platform, we need to see what we've learned when we first were trying, because the first time was trial and practice. This time, if we go back on the online platform, that's proper teaching, because we've done the practice run already.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in terms of embracing, I must say, as much as it was challenging, I love the online platform because I have learned so much that I would not ordinarily go and learn for myself.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I have got a new set of skills which I was forced to learn. And I must say, I am embracing it because I have also realized there's so many different platforms out there that we could all, be using.
You're right. Because I tutor, and I've been tutoring. I normally do face-to-face, and I've never thought I could do it online. But doing it online, I realised it's not that bad. So, I've learned new things as well from online.
There you are. Exactly. So you're not being fair to yourself. You need to embrace your new skills because you've learned new things online. And it's wonderful. We just have to, embrace it. And instead of denying it, we need to, just welcome it, because we have already been out of our comfort zone. We've already gone there. So we might as well enjoy what came with it.
Yeah, true.
Exactly. Because educators, constantly have this mindset that I've always done it this way, the traditional mindset. We need to shift.
Yeah.
We need to shift and enjoy the beauty of the changes that have taken place. And it was beautiful, though.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. Can you guys share, like, and comment? And every day I'll be coming on live with educators to discuss the experience of online platform. And I'll be coming live on Sunday at 4 o'clock with a new program, which is called Everything Education, where I'll be talking to psychologists, educators, and counselors, where we discuss what nobody discussing, i.e. the emotional and psychological and trauma effect of COVID-19, which affect educators and students. People tend to forget, as educators, we are human first, and we are affected by these things that have been taking place. And as Marcia says, some educators are anxious going back to this classroom because things are not properly taken care of. And we don't feel that we are effectively being protected when we go back to the classroom. So those are the things I'll be addressing on Sunday, because those are the things that are not being addressed. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like, share, and comment, and have a fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Stay blessed, and see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.